Government doesn't want to admit they're hiding these, but journalists had to file Freedom of Information requests to get the 2022 financials. Speaker, this government wants Ontarians to believe that Ontario Place is derelict and abandoned. The Minister of Infrastructure even told this House before, and I quote, "It is not enjoyed by Torontonians or Ontarians." But these newly released documents reveal that Ontario Place actually attracted 2.9 million visitors last year alone, just in 1 year. Sure. And they made a record profit. 2.9 million visitors, that is almost as many visitors as the Statue of Liberty.
Also nothing.
So, Speaker, it doesn't sound like tumbleweeds to me.
Order.
Back to the Premier.
Order.
Why is the Premier hiding the facts about Ontario Place?
Order. Once again to reply, the member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ontario Place holds a special place in hearts and minds of Ontarians. Mr. Speaker, the new site will feature upwards of 50 acres of free parks and public spaces for everyone to enjoy, including trails, green space and parkland, playgrounds, fountains, beaches, boardwalks, spaces for festivals and markets, as well as an updated marina with opportunities for waterside cafes and year-round restaurants. Mr. Speaker, let's not pretend that millions of Ontarians stand into Ontario Place to walk around on the giant asphalt pad that currently takes up most of the East Island. Mr. Speaker, due to the lack of vision and action by the previous Liberal government, the only major draw for Ontario Place currently is to see a concert at Eco Beach and Budweiser Stage. Mr. Speaker, with the redevelopment of Ontario Place, we are supporting economic growth and prosperity. And providing an open and viable destination for all. Our investments in Ontario Place, Mr. Speaker, will create approximately 5,000
Order. Order. The final supplementary.
Speaker, thank you. Speaker, the reality is, the Premier is forcing taxpayers across this province in Thunder Bay and Windsor, in Ottawa and in Timmins to pay more than $650 million to subsidize a luxury spa for rich people. Meanwhile, he's closing rural emergency rooms, delaying Northern Highway projects, freezing funding for homelessness programs in Ottawa. The NDP believes this government should be investing to get people the health care and education and housing they need, not spending $650 million on luxury spas. Will the Premier stop the transfer of public funds into private pockets and cancel the Therma deal?
Members will please take their seats. Again, the member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you once again to the Leader of Opposition. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the importance of Ontario Place as a historic, unique destination for all and will continue to engage with public and stakeholders to ensure all perspectives from across the province are recognized and considered. Mr. Speaker, not only that, we have hosted extensive public consultations on the redevelopment project, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to share with the House that over 9,200 people participated in this process to share their input and ideas for the future of Ontario Place. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we are supporting, by redeveloping the Ontario Place, Mr. Speaker, we are supporting the economic growth, prosperity, and providing an open and enjoyable destination for all. Mr. Speaker, our investments in Ontario Place will create approximately 5,000 new jobs during both construction and permanent operation stages, yield millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, in rental payments for the province, and will attract estimated 4 to 6 million visitors.
Thank you very much. The next question, back to the Leader of the Opposition. Order. Stop the clock. Stop the clock. Order. Okay, order. Restart the clock. The next question, the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, we know these guys love their spa services, but $650 million, that buys a lot of good luck rituals. A lot of good luck rituals. As the truth leaks out about this Premier's secret 95-year deal with Therma, the worse it smells. Normally, with a large procurement like this, Infrastructure Ontario would appoint a fairness monitor to ensure fairness and integrity. The NDP, we've submitted a Freedom of Information request to get the Fairness Monitor report for the Ontario Place procurement. Turns out, no such document exists, Speaker. Back to the Premier. Why wasn't there a Fairness Monitor for this particular procurement?
Number 4, Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, it was the previous Liberal government that left this historic place in state of neglect and disrepair, Mr. Speaker, and the opposition didn't do anything that time, Mr. Speaker. This is the government that is taking action, Mr. Speaker. Not only we're doing redevelopment of the Ontario Place, we're investing $184 billion in infrastructure over the next 10 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the government that believes in taking action, and we are taking action. We are committed to redeveloping Ontario Place in a sustainable way, also respecting the historical and natural features, Mr. Speaker. And as I said, once this is the Ontario Place is open, it will approximately create 5,000 new jobs, Mr. Speaker. And as I said, it will attract 4 to 6 million visitors each year, Mr. Speaker. This is a place for family and friends to enjoy, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. Maybe it would be helpful if I explained a little bit about why that fairness monitor matters. The NDP has learned that a few days before the bid submission deadline for the Ontario Place procurement, Infrastructure Ontario mysteriously extended the deadline by 3 weeks. Several bidders had already submitted their bids on time, but Therma, with its private luxury spa proposal, had not. Speaker, to the Premier, was the deadline extended to give Therma an advantage?
Reply, member for Brampton West.
Mr. As I said earlier, that this is the government that believes in public consultation, and we are continuously consulting the public and other stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. As I said, over 9,200 people participated in the public consultation, Mr. Speaker, that in the process to share their input and ideas for the future of Ontario Place, Mr. Speaker. This government is taking action. As I said, not only we're doing the redevelopment of Ontario Place, we're investing $184 billion over next 10 years, Mr. Speaker, and most importantly, we're making these investments, not only building the new hospitals, highways, Mr. Speaker, also, the most importantly, we're connecting all Ontarians with high-speed internet by 2025, Mr. Speaker. This is the government that will get it done.
Final supplementary. Leader of the Opposition.
All right. Well, let's try this again. Fair procurements use scoring criteria and metrics to objectively assess each bid. Earlier this year, the NDP asked Infrastructure Ontario to provide these criteria and give us the scorecards for the Ontario Place bids. They won't provide it. It seems there were no scoring criteria. No scorecards. If this seems familiar, well, Speaker, it's because this sounds an awful lot like the Greenbelt grab. Speaker, if Therma was chosen based on fair and objective criteria, why won't this Premier and this government release the details of the selection process?
Members, please take their seats. To reply once again to the government, member for Brampton West. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, we've been listening to the public through the redevelopment process, Mr. Speaker. We have heard loud and clear that Ontarians, Mr. Speaker, want the redevelopment of Ontario Place and will continue to collect feedback from public, from stakeholders, Indigenous communities, Mr. Speaker, as part of the redevelopment process. And, Mr. Speaker, just this week, Minister Surma and Premier Ford attended the Toronto Region Board of Trade for a discussion on the waterfront and our plans to redevelop Ontario Place. And Premier Ford thoughtfully said, Mr. Speaker, bold thinking will always invite disagreement. The Premier is completely right, Mr. Speaker. After 15 years of neglect and mismanagement, Mr. Speaker, we're acting on a world-class vision to bring Ontario Place back to life, Mr. Speaker. And once, Mr. Speaker, this government bring it back to life, this will be a remarkable world-class year-round destination, Mr. Speaker. This improved Ontario Place will provide people of all ages with something to enjoy, Mr. Speaker, including enhanced public spaces, increased access to the waterfront, pools, water slides.
Thank you very much. Stop the clock. Members will please take their seats. Restart the clock. The next question, the member for Spadina, Fort York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. If the member opposite had actually attended the consultations, he would have heard loudly and clearly that the residents of Ontario do not want their tax dollars going to subsidize on thermal spa. This government has been planning changes to Ontario Place for some time. In 2021, they even hired a special advisor on Ontario Place, a job that paid us as much as $171,500 per year. They gave the job to a close ally of the Premier's, one of their candidates, and the candidate the Premier endorsed to be Mayor of Toronto, Mark Saunders. Speaker, to the Premier, what work did the special advisor on Ontario Place do?
To reply for the government, the member for Brantford West. Brampton.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I wish the members opposite had shown the same passion, Mr. Speaker, when their partners in the previous Liberal government left this place in state of neglect and disrepair, Mr. Speaker. We are the government that believes in action and getting things done and build, Mr. Speaker, and this is what our government is doing. We're investing $184 billion over the next 10 years in infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, and this Ontario Place, Mr. Speaker, our government is delivering on our promise to bring Ontario Place back to life, making it a remarkable world-class year-round destination that's fun for everyone, Mr. Speaker. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, with the redevelopment of Ontario Place, we are supporting economic growth and prosperity and providing an open and enjoyable destination for all, Mr. Speaker. And our investments in Ontario Place will create approximately 5,000 new jobs, Mr. Speaker, 5,000 new jobs during both construction and permanent operations. And, Mr. Speaker, it will also attract 4 to 6 million visitors.
Thank you very much. The supplementary question back to the member for Spadina, Fort York.
Okay. Interesting, Speaker. The NDP filed Freedom of Information requests for all advice or reports from Mr. Saunders during his time as the Premier's Special Advisor on Ontario Place Development. The government found no records, and I'll quote from the FOI office. Access cannot be granted as no records exist. Back to the Premier. Can the Premier show any evidence that his Special Advisor produced any advice?